I want to talk a little about gratitude. And I would like to start out by some phrases by Dr. or by Reverend Imamura. He was here at the temple for a convention, and I met him. Really a great thinker and the like. And then I met him in Oakland, I believe. These are some thoughts that he had. I see Buddhism as being like fertilizer in that it enriches and nourishes all beliefs and practices without trying to replace them. Or I see Buddhism as being like tofu in that it coexists unobtrusively in any setting and any population without needing to dominate. How many of you like tofu in your food? Everybody, and everybody seems to know what tofu is now in this day. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit, spinning off of what Jack talked about, and I don't have anything to bribe you with, not even senbei or even a cup. Come downstairs. We're at the Toban stuff. But talk to you a little about gratitude. The old way you start out things is what is it defined in Webster's dictionary, and gratitude is defined as the state of being grateful. It sounds redundant, or being thankful. These guys over here, they probably are beyond this, but when you first start talking about gratitude to some little kids, what do you teach them? You teach them, you say, thank you. And what does mom say? What did you say to grandma when she gave you the present? Thank you. Good. Do you know what thank you is? Well, you're supposed to say thank you. But that's the beginning of being grateful. For some people, and even some schools of Buddhism, they say, well, I don't need this stuff. I can do it all myself. Who's this Amida Buddha person and all this stuff? I can do it myself, and if I work hard enough and I strive, I'll become enlightened. And some people go, I'm not sure. So we're grateful to what Amida Buddha has said, that don't worry about it, you will be enlightened down the road. But this is a recipe that comes from Marcella Hazan's cookbook. It's a wonderful, very simple tomato sauce recipe that is very basic. It contains 3 things: tomatoes, onions, and butter. And so somebody says, hey, I can do that. I can grow tomatoes. That's no problem. I can grow some onions, and I can even have a cow. And I'll milk the cow and churn the milk and the cream and make some butter. That's a lot of work. But can you really just do that? No, there are a lot of causes and conditions that you need for that to work. You need water and rain, and we may be having an issue with that as we get into the summer. Or you're hoping that the city of Portland or wherever you live, you can turn the faucet on and water will come out. So you need the water to nourish the plants and the like. You need worms, compost, all that stuff that fertilize the soil. You can't grow this in a rock. You need really rich soil to really make it work, or the grass for the cow to eat, for the cow to make the milk, to make the butter, to make the sauce. You need sunshine. We're getting it today, but if you don't have any sunshine, you don't get the photosynthesis in the leaves, the energy that makes the plants and the fruit grow, and you just need work. You need to know somewhat how to do it. How many know how to milk a cow? Some of you do, yeah. But you need to know how to get the milk out of the cow and the like. And so there is a lot of work, and it's the conditions and the causes, the condition that make those things work that you can do it. So it's not something as simple as I can do it myself. Jodo Shinshu Buddhism says you probably can't do it yourself. You need the help of Amida Buddha. This is written by a person named Rod Muramura. Ron, I know him well from coming from Minneapolis. He is at the Midwest Buddhist Temple in Chicago, and they were our supervising minister in Minneapolis. And so we've met him. My parents and my family knows him very well. And I've met him at some conferences, and I love talking to him because he has this way of thinking. And I would like to read along, and this is so you can understand or see what I'm mumbling about. As Buddhists, we like to think that we are good people. As Shin Buddhists, perhaps we know we cannot know good and bad. Actually, we have to acknowledge that we are good people. We are people full of blind passions, and we also acknowledge that we are grateful and thankful for the wisdom and compassion that is Amida Buddha. We all like to think that we are good people who don't kill. However, the reality may be a bit different. In Shin Buddhism, all sentient beings, meaning all living things, have equal potential for Buddhahood. So all living things are equal. Humans, animals, and plants are living things. And humans are not superior to plants, and plants are not superior to animals. All sentient beings are equal and have the equal Buddha nature. We like to think that we do not kill, but that's impossible. Each time I eat plants and animals. These plants and animals died so that I can eat and continue to live. The alternative is to not kill plants and animals, which means I would starve and thus kill myself. So no matter what I do, I have to kill. Either plants or animals have sacrificed their lives so that I may live, or I may starve. This is the dilemma that is impossible to resolve when we think about it. This is the problem. We cannot use logic. No matter what we do, I have to kill. The only way to resolve this issue is to find a spiritual answer. So recently he was here, Dr. Reverend Jeff Wilson. Do you remember him? He was great. And one of the things he talks about is in his book, Buddhism of the Heart, which I highly recommend. And also, we chatted a little bit at dinner. He's a vegetarian. And he says, I'm a vegetarian because I don't like sort of what was Reverend Muramura talked about in here, that I don't like to see animals suffering, so I don't do that. But here's a dilemma. And one of the things that people say, oh, you guys are Buddhists. All Buddhists are vegetarians like that. They don't do. Well, not really. A rule, and these are more likely the monks, the people who devote themselves to finding enlightenment. Many of them carry bowls with them, and they go and have services for somebody and the like, and the person gives them their meal and puts it in the bowl. It may be some just leftovers, or it may be actually a special meal. And the monk doesn't go, oh, is this vegan free? Is this gluten free? Does it have any chicken base in what you were putting in? Is there very much salt? Do you have dairy in it? Is there soy? Did you put shoyu in it? I can't eat that. And dump out the bowl. You can't do that. The rule is you eat whatever's put in your bowl. That's your meal. And in gratitude for the person who either made this or brought this together, you eat what's there. So in his book, Reverend Dr. Wilson talks about what happens if you reach this dilemma and the like. The example is a new neighbor has moved in next door to you, and you want to introduce that person to the neighborhood. You introduce the person to yourself. What's it like? You help them set up their house. You help them in their garden. You loan them your lawnmower and all these things. And the neighbor says, oh, I want to, in appreciation and gratitude to you, invite you to my house. And I want to make a dinner for you. And I'm going to make you this fish that I caught. I went out fishing into the ocean. It was a beautiful day. I caught this fish. It took me about 20 minutes to land it. They cleaned it up, and I have a special recipe for this, and so I want to have that fish for dinner. And I have the special chicken recipe that my grandmother gave to me. It takes about 2 days to put it together. You have to marinate it. You have to do special things. But you're so special. You're my new neighbor. You helped me get settled. So I'm going to also have this lovely chicken dish. And so in gratitude, you say, thank you very much. I don't think you could say to this neighbor who put all this energy and effort in, I don't eat meat. Do you have a peanut butter sandwich? But you say this. So Reverend Wilson said, this is how you do it in gratitude for the neighbor, but I normally don't eat meat. Think about it as much as the idea makes me queasy, as wrong as I feel is to kill and consume other beings, that I could eat the fish or the chicken. First, I would bow my head and think how they become bodhisattvas to me and how grateful I feel towards them. Next, I would bring to mind all the causes and conditions that go into this meal and all meals which I receive, how my nourishment always makes a negative impact on the lives of others. That's why he says, I'm a vegetarian, because I don't like to see the animals suffer. But the causes and conditions, like was mentioned, is I have to have nourishment and how we get it. I cannot perceive, but also how my nourishment makes a positive impact on others too. Then I would eat the chicken or the fish in thanksgiving. I would try to enjoy the meal in order to show most respect to those brother beings who made this sacrifice. After I would say Namo Amida Butsu to thank them and to support my life. So you can't I guess you could be absolute about this, but there's also the gratefulness of all the things that prepared. So we use terms before meals that show our appreciation. One of the things we say before meals, and we probably will say it today before we go downstairs and have our snacks or the like that the Toban has so generously put together, we'll say itadakimasu. And what does itadakimasu mean? Other than, is it like, thank you, my mother told me I'm supposed to say it, so I always say it. And if you look around, a lot of Japanese people say itadakimasu. They may not be Buddhists or anything, but everybody's learned to say itadakimasu. What does itadakimasu mean? Itadaku is to raise above my head. You saw Minister Assistant Brenda, after she chanted, she put the book above her head. That's itadaku. And humbly I receive, like the food, like the words. And it's a gesture of raising or bowing to the book as you close and receive it. You say itadakimasu in the food for the same thing. All of the things that have gone together to make this meal, to make these things before you. But you can't take a bowl of soup and go itadaku. It'd obviously be disastrous to you and the bowl of soup and your head or your skin. So we bow down and say, itadaku, thank you for all that has gone in. When you finish the meal, you say, gochiso-sama. And gochiso-sama is another word meaning, actually it means to run around a lot. And for gochi is to run errands, and sama is the person who runs errand, and deshita is it happens. you're saying thank you very much for running around and making this wonderful meal, but it's also a thank you that I appreciate all the work and effort that you went, and this meal was delicious, and I really appreciate it. So at the end of the meal, you say gochiso-sama. Now, you don't have to say itadakimasu, and somebody told me you're supposed to do that. You can quietly say gochiso-sama, but you should always, in appreciation and gratitude for the person who made the meal. Reverend Miyamura again. Shin Buddhist response, make sure I got the same one. Shin Buddhist response to appreciate the sacrifices of others and to express our thanks and gratitude. When we eat, we can say some Japanese words. We say itadakimasu before we eat and gochiso-sama when we finish eating. It is a simple translation. Itadakimasu means thankfully I receive, and gochiso-sama says I appreciate this good food. But they are Japanese words in the beyond translation. There is a whole lot more meaning than saying thank you. There is a sense of appreciation for everything that went into making the food. Everything from the seeds, the soil, the water, the sun, and much more that allows the plant to grow. Maybe there is grass and feed that allows the cow or the pig or the chicken to grow. And then there is the farmers, truck drivers, the grocery store folks, and so many others who brought the food to the store. And there was the person who went shopping, there was the cook who prepared the food, and in short, there were so many causes and conditions that are made one meal. We have to express our gratitude in the future. We may be able to make up some words in English equivalent to that, but for now, we can just say itadakimasu and gochiso-sama. We know that we are thankful and grateful for the sacrifices of so many people, animals, plants, and things that allow us to survive each and every day. We express our gratitude by saying Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu with gratitude and kindness beyond words. One of the things that we do in gratitude or a project, remember Reverend Williams who came here and talked? He was here in Portland, not specifically just to talk to the Oregon Buddhist Temple, but he was bringing around a project called Irecho, which is a book of all the names of people who are in the relocation camps, to recognize the sacrifices and being grateful to what they did. The book is huge, and they are carrying it around to many cities for people to recognize the names in the book. If you look at the 1, 2, 3, 4th line on here, Brioche George Ono with the little dot, that's my dad. If you look at this page, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line from the bottom, Masai Ono with a little dot, that's my mom. So the book is divided into camps and is divided by years of their birth. And so they look it up, tell you which page it's on, and you can stamp it. And my niece, the book is coming to Minneapolis, and I believe she's going to stamp in October, and she's going to recognize her grandparents, which is that, and the aunts on my mom's side, and I may have her do the grandparents. You are allowed only 6 names, so you have to pick out which are 6 important names. But if you have the chance, and I was so happy I had the chance, this was done at JAMO, the Japanese American Museum, and I was so lucky I had an appointment and a chance. I was surprised. I thought, you just walk in and stamp the book. There is a whole process that you go through. There were people from Seattle and California here because they couldn't get appointments in Los Angeles or even Seattle. So if you have a chance, or if the book comes back again to Portland, make an appointment, have them find out what page your relatives are in and put a mark on it to show that gratitude or appreciation for all that's there. There's one more story that I'm going to give you. This was written by Reverend Tetsu Ono in his little pamphlet called Gratitude. It's a great pamphlet. I believe we have copies in the library if you want to read it. And it really hits this point in gratitude. What he talks about, and I will read it because his words are even better than my words. There was a fairly well-to-do farmer who lived in the early part of the century in Japan. Once his maid went home to visit her parents, and Ginza gave her a sack of potatoes to present to them. When the maid returned after a 2-week visit, she said, "My parents asked me to thank you for the potatoes. Thank you very much." Upon the farmer replied, "Then don't thank me, thank the potatoes." He was born into the world of nothing. Whatever possessions he had were gifts of life. Thus, when he gave the potatoes to others, he felt that gratitude should not be directed to him, but to the things in the gifts. Here again, we are an example of an ego-free, selfless appreciation of life as it is. This is further from the book that I may do one more reading. I am coming to the end of this talk. For a long time, I used to think that I should be getting more recognition for my work, perhaps more praise, and in some cases, a little more money. Always there was a lingering sense that I was entitled to more than the world. There are a lot of people talk about entitlement as kind of the antithesis of what we're talking about, being grateful. But now I realize the world doesn't owe me anything, and in fact, I'm the one who owes something to the world. The reason is that when I leave, I cannot take anything with me. In between birth and death, everything I have is a gift. My body, the clothes I wear, the knowledge I have, the family and friends, hobbies I enjoy, the hobbies that I enjoy, the house I live in, and so on. They are all mine, but only as things temporarily entrusted to me during my sojourn on earth. When I become aware of the workings of countless people and unknown forces that make my existence possible here and now, I feel I can never do enough to repay them. Causes and conditions, a word that you hear over and over again. Gratefulness, a word that you hear over and over again in the Buddhist teachings. So a very important point and the like. Briefly, in kind of crosses my area before I retired is the area of medicine. And in a small town was a coroner. Coroners are the people who see the people that they passed away, write in the cause of death, and if necessary, evaluate what is the cause of death. The town's city council said, "We're firing the coroner because he's not doing a very good job." And there's a little place on the death certificate, if you've seen that, it says cause of death. And in all the time he writes into cause of death, birth. And so think of what was saying there. We only have a period on earth. Appreciate it, use it, be grateful that you have this moment, but realize it's not going to be forever. And Amida Buddha says, after you pass, we will take care of you. So finally, back to Reverend Wilson again and his comments. Nembutsuge, out of gratitude for our food and all that sustains us, naturally leads to remembrance.
Nembutsuge is just Amita's way of lightly tapping us on the shoulder during the course of our non-stop hectic lives and reminding us to open our hearts with trust. The thing that has always been said, that Namo Dabasu. So in grace, in gratitude, in thank you for all that has been given to us and all that is part of us and all those causes and conditions that made this thing that we call our lives, we thank you and we say Namo Amitabutsu. Let's close with that, please. So let's say together, Namo Amitabutsu, Namo Amitabutsu, Namo Amitabutsu. Thank you very much.